Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope everyone is doing well. Hopefully, my audio is not doing too, hope my audio is good. Let me present this actually, just so we can see this. All right, I'll give it a few minutes to let people kind of, join in. I'm also kind of getting blinded by some light over here from the sun, which is great. But yeah, feel free to kind of join in today. We're going to be talking about starting a data consulting company in 2025 or an independent consulting company in 2025. Really doesn't matter whether you're doing technical, non-technical. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to probably click. Really, so the goal is, hello, Robert. Really, the goal is today is to do a few. I'm going to be doing a few of these, a few lives for the next few days, talking about starting consulting companies. So this one today is kind of going to be an overview, kind of higher level. And then the next 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, I'll be doing more inside of the TFA. So the TFA is just a consulting community that I have, free to join. Anyone can join. If you're interested in consulting, you can come in, and we'll be doing the next 3 there. So I'll post that here just for y'all to have if you'd like to join. But other than that, we'll start talking about starting a consulting company. All right, so let's talk about starting a consulting company first. Quick background. I think most people know me, but I'll give a background just in case for people who are new. Hey everyone, my name is Ben Rojan. I go by the Seattle Data Guy. For everyone who doesn't know, I do not live in Seattle anymore. I live in Denver. I keep telling myself I need to put a little thing underneath my logo that says powered by, so that I can just move to different cities and people don't have to always ask me where do I live or assume that I live in Seattle. So I've been consulting now full time, going in my 4th year, but I've been doing it off and on pretty much my whole career. Before I quit, I worked at Facebook as a data engineer, and then before that, a startup and a hospital prior to that. Also, let me know if the audio is good. I feel like I might have messed up my mic recently. But in terms of like industries I've consulted in, probably everything underneath the sun: finance, insurance, transportation, recently some HR companies, and really just kind of plenty. Mostly I focus on end-to-end data solutions, so helping people get data from point A to point B. But I also do a lot of other stuff as well. I've kind of played around a little bit in terms of what types of consulting I take on. All right, so let's get into the meat, actually, why you're here. So first of all, last year I spent a ton of time talking to consultants and asking them, audio's good, great. And just trying to understand like what problems consultants face, like what is holding them back, what do they feel like they could do better, or a lot of consultants or individuals who are just about to start consulting. So a lot of these consultants, whether new or more experienced, would ask me things like, where do I find clients? Obviously, that's the big one always. Where do I find clients? How do I price? Which makes sense. We all want to make sure we're pricing our time in a way that we're optimizing every hour that we work. How do I build recurring business, right? Like, okay, how do I get more referrals? How do I keep getting clients after, while I'm having to deal with one client, how do I get the next client? And should I partner with a vendor? Which is also a good question for anyone who doesn't know. You can generally partner with vendors and have them either send you clients or vice versa. Maybe you send them work, and it usually is this back and forth where they're very happy because you send them work and they get work in return. So a lot of people, obviously, these are the questions that people are interested in asking. In fact, there's some questions that people asked in the TFA, which is, again, just the community, where they were curious about, where to even start. They're like, should I target small businesses, large businesses? Like, where should I even start? And it kind of feels a little bit like there's no initial focus. So I really want to talk about that before we really dig deep. So really, I want to say kind of stop and pause. Awesome. I'm glad Zach told me to follow this channel. Yeah. And obviously you're already following Zach, so that's good. So stop before we go deeper, and you're all asking like, where should we start, or how should we target clients? I do think there's an aspect of you first taking a pause, before you start down the path of consulting, and asking yourself why in the world you're even going down this path, right? I think that's really important. I think a lot of people, maybe you saw me post or you saw someone else post and they said, "Hell, yeah, consulting's great. You are free. You don't, you free yourself from the 9 to 5, etc." But I think it's really important for you to just pause and ask yourself, well, why do I want to consult, right? Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of consulting. So some of the realities. But there are obviously realities. There are always challenges to any path that you take, right? You will likely be working a little more, especially at the beginning until you can get your business going. It will be hard. There will be challenges you'll run into. It's not as, it doesn't feel as stable as a full-time job. There's all these challenges that you need to make sure you have a solid why to why you're doing it. Because if you don't, what's going to happen in the long run is you're going to start, faltering, right? Like one hard day is going to happen and you'll be like, maybe I should go back to working full-time. So just make sure you have a solid why. Next, before you start asking yourself, hey, which customers should I be targeting or things like that, you need to really understand yourself in the sense of what is it that you offer people that is unique, that people often call it a UVP. Realizing this is smaller than I'd like, so I'll zoom in a little bit. So people often call this a UVP. There are thousands of data engineers or data analysts or technical consultants out there that can do probably what you do, right? In terms of the task side. Do I need a Power BI dashboard? There's a lot of people that can do that. Do I need to build data pipelines? There's a lot of people that can do that. You need to figure out what is your unique kind of angle. Like, why would someone want to hire you over the other engineers that they could hire? Why would they want to hire you over someone they could just contract or something of that nature? So it really is about you understanding what it is you bring. And we'll kind of talk about that more. So don't worry if you're still kind of confused on UVP. We will talk about that in the next few slides, just to kind of help you kind of start to take a moment and answer, like, what is it that you do really well? I'm trying to zoom out, but I'm on the wrong page. Okay. The next really important thing, and this somewhat goes with UVP because I think you start realizing how things connect. It's that whole circles or all those diagrams, like a Venn diagram of understanding your client's problems and understanding your skill set and what you offer. So you need to understand your client's problems, which again are not, client's problems are not, hey, I need a dashboard. No one needs a dashboard. There's a specific thing that they actually need on the business side. I'm trying to figure out if I'm, maybe my churn is too high or there's certain metrics that they're trying to watch. And a dashboard is just a tool that helps them answer that problem or helps them figure out what, hey, I can track my churn now. Maybe I can figure out why it's dropping or why I'm losing, subscribers. And thus, then I can improve what I'm doing. So you need to understand your client's problems. The way I usually tell people to do this is go reach out to them if you can. If you have people in your network that find them, try to talk to them without trying to sell them. Just have a conversation with people in the industry, or maybe it's just a manager you had or someone that you're trying to eventually sell to, and talk to them. Understand their day to day. Because if you don't understand what their actual problems are, it's going to be really hard to sell to them. You're just going to keep selling tasks or like, hey, I do Power BI dashboards, instead of being like, hey, I solve these key problems. And again, we'll talk about that. And I think it's just really important when you're trying to think through, starting your consulting business. I know this maybe seems like it's almost like when I took a few business classes and they make you write like a vision statement. Some of it kind of can seem like it's not important. You just need to go forward and do things. But I think this really helps you start to pinpoint what you're going to do and what problems you're going to solve and how you're going to eventually start marketing your services. All right. Next is learn how to get in front of clients. Last year I did a similar talk, and basically I summed it up into the fact that generally most people need to do a few things first, which is one, figure out what their niche is. Two, learn how to get in front of clients, and three, learn how to get them to trust you. I've added a few more steps, but overall, this never changes, right? Clients, you have to somehow get in front of clients. That does not change. It will not change forever, right? If you're a consultant, there has to be some way or some reason that people see that you have the skill set that they're looking for, and then buy from you. Now, when I say that, there are lots of different ways that you can do this, right? You can do this everything from marketing, sales, and we have a slide on it eventually here, but like marketing, sales, vendor partnerships, getting referrals. There are tons of ways to get in front of people, but you have to pick something. I usually tell people like pick one that you're going to focus on and get really good at it. Take a year, and if you're going to do content marketing, do that, right? Like just put out content for like 6 months or something. If you're going to do networking, if you're going to try building up your network, spend the next 6 months reaching out to 20, 30 people a day, and just get on that, right? And really, really try to go to your network. Try to go to 2 or 3 events a week, because that's how you're going to get good at that skill, as well as that's how you're going to see like actual results. Because you have to put a lot of time and effort into these things before you start seeing results. So we'll talk more about that specifically, but that's the high level. And then finally, learn how to deliver value fast. And I think that's really important. I often see a lot of people with projects, especially people who are employees, never really deliver. Right? Like maybe like we're going to do a data warehouse project, but they never really get it going, or they take 3 times as long as they should. Right? As a consultant, you benefit by delivering quickly and well, over trying to like elongate some projects. I mean, some people enjoy they like elongating projects. That is some consultants' style or approach to earning lots of money. But I think on the flip side, if you can deliver projects quickly, and obviously well, people are willing to pay for that, right? Because you solve this problem instead of taking 2 years to deliver something, you take 6 months or whatever is the faster version of it. And really, the key is often to constantly get unblocked, is the way I like to see it, and make sure projects actually get completed. So the reason I say that is kind of the 5th step is, as you're going through, this helps you get referrals. This helps you get your next project. It helps you see more of what's going on in the data world. So, or the tech world. I shouldn't say just data. It's obviously not just data. All right. So this is kind of just a high level path that I wanted to kind of cover. Really, again, just to get things started. We'll kind of go deeper now into some of these. All right, so your UVP is not just about building dashboards, developing a front end, running in some analysis, developing or delivering some audit, right? Like these aren't the thing that your client's necessarily paying for. There's some reason, there's some pain that they're feeling, and you need to figure out what it is in terms of like what you're trying to sell, right? You're not building a dashboard again. You are likely trying to help them either gain insights into some problem, and then maybe help them take action off that dashboard, right? Like that is more valuable to a client than just like, hey, I built a dashboard. That's still thinking like an individual contributor and an employee. You want to go from like, I'm just an individual and and employee, to, hey, I want to actually be a strategic partner, is kind of the way I view it. I was just reading some comments here. Feel free to comment. Because Josue is like, one key consideration. Sometimes a dashboard do need dashboards for the sake of dashboards, because that is what has been approved, requested within the layers of politics. That's true. I still think there are times you can argue or just say like, hey, I'll build you this dashboard to show you I can. But I think longer term, here's a better solution. There are ways you can approach that, I think, as a consultant, to both increase the work that you could be doing, but also to show that you're not just, again, an individual contributor. It's like, hey, I'll deliver this thing and I'll deliver it well because this is what you asked for. But I think, we should, in the longer run, this is a better solution. Or you can just straight up pitch it as this is a better solution. But yes, there are politics that exist, and sometimes it can be hard to move things. But again, back to your UVP. I like this picture from SEMrush just because it kind of highlights what you offer in terms of what are your skills, what products and services maybe do you offer, how can you solve these problems, and then it kind of tries to tie that into, what is your customer feeling? What are the pains? Kind of what do they do and what do they need, right? And that's really what you're trying to figure out. You're trying to figure out that cross section where what you offer um, help solve problems for them. It's not just about, again, I build a dashboard. It's like, but why are you building this dashboard? And if you want to go another layer deeper, it's like, do you do that for maybe specific industries? Are you really good at marketing data? Are you really good at healthcare data? Do you really understand not just the data aspect, but the industry? So when you build this dashboard, you can help them on the operation side improve maybe how their healthcare logistics is flowing or something of that nature. Because then you're really, taking a step up and doing a lot more and solving bigger problems. Which then takes me kind of to this value pyramid, right? Like this levels of consulting value. I like the idea of thinking about this because you just slowly will find that you, over time, as your consultant, you are growing in the way you deliver value. Probably early on, it's totally fine to just be doing things that are very similar to an individual contributor, right? It's more contractor work. You are focusing on delivering things in terms of like tasks and time, where someone's just asking you to deliver a dashboard or build some form of data warehouse, and you're just kind of charging for the time that it takes you, which is fine because you're early on in your career and you're just focusing on, mostly trying to land clients, build up your referrals and things of that nature. But as you go forward, you're going to start looking for kind of stepping up in this pyramid where instead of just doing tasks and time, you want to focus on things like outcomes and transformations, or things that transform, again, the way the business operates, right? An example here that I wrote is, maybe as a consultant, you charge $100,000 to transform the client's kind of entire sales and marketing function by helping them become more data driven, right? Like by giving them this dashboard and then helping them either train to make better decisions off of it, helping them see how they can actually read it correctly, right? You're doing more than just the dashboard. You're like, well, what do we need to change about the culture to actually make sure that this sticks? I'm not just building the dashboard. I'm trying to help them take it to the next level. And so as you go up this pyramid, you can charge more money because you inevitably deliver more value in terms of the actual outcome. I've also listed a few kind of examples here in terms of how you can do that. And yeah, please feel free to email. I will be reaching out to that, or I'll look at that email. Sorry. Please feel free to comment. I will be looking at that in a second. But here are two kind of just breakouts of examples of ways you can look at outcome as well. I already read kind of transformation, but some outcomes could be something like, you delivered some standardized data sets, or you basically built a data warehouse that now lets the analytics team uncover some churn or risk in some customer segment of data, where, again, you're likely working with the analytics team to help them figure that out, help them actually push and be like, hey, I think I saw something interesting in the data set here that would help us understand churn better. And so it's not just about delivering the data sets. It's also about really owning the whole process and be like, well, I can also help you maybe improve how you're analyzing the data, because I think your analysts are good, but they could be better, and I want to help them really drive more value. So it's really about thinking about the whole picture versus just the little world you live in, that little task bubble that you're delivering. So I'm going to go to the next slide here in a second. But really, this first half, or this first part of this, I think it's kind of half, has really been focused on you. And I think it's really important that as you're going into this new year, you focus on yourself and asking, one, why do you want to consult if you are going down this path? And two, what is it that you offer clients that makes you valuable, right? Because if you can't answer those questions, when you think about marketing, when you think about sales, when you think about, all these other things, it's going to be harder. You need to have like a clear understanding of what you do and what problems you solve, and just have a list somewhere of that written before you go out and be like, I'm just going to try finding clients, right? It just makes it much easier because you can just articulate the value that you offer. All right, so I do want to pause and make this a little more interactive. So take a moment, guys, pause, write down the skills you have, the skills you think you offer, and maybe think about how that can be used to impact the business. Like, not just I can build a dashboard. Why are you building this dashboard? Why are you building this data pipeline? Why are you being asked to redesign a front end or improve performance somewhere? What is it that it drives in the business? So just take a moment. I think about that. I'm going to answer this question in a second too as well. But I'll give you guys a second. I'm kind of pausing as well. So I'll be quiet. And you can feel free to share a few of them. But I will answer this question, and we'll talk a little bit more about sales or how to land clients and different methods in a few slides. But I'll answer this one. Do you use cold email for go-to-market for finding clients? I personally don't use that very heavily. I just went down the route of content early on. I would tell you that whichever path you pick, that you realize it's going to take time. So I think a lot of people think that if I go down the cold email route, it should work quickly. And I've talked to a lot of salespeople at this point, and even with salespeople, it's arguably very similar in the sense that you still have to have like multiple touches. You still like you don't send one cold email. I don't remember what the statistics are, but it takes like whatever 12 cold emails to like get someone to respond. And so I think some people think that if I do cold emails, it will take a month. But most salespeople I've talked to say it still takes 9 months or 6 months to get people to start working with you. So I don't use cold email. I think it's definitely a hard place to be. I like content because it brings people to you when they need you versus trying to reach out to them constantly. But it doesn't mean it doesn't work. It's just, it will still take time. And I think some people think it'll be fast. So yeah. Cool. People are sharing their skill sets. So we got some PySpark, Airflow, and AWS. So then the question becomes, where does that help a business? Same thing with, skills, SQL, PySpark, Azure, Power BI. Power BI also, what I like about Power BI, any of the dashboard skills, is they're great because they're visual. So if someone does think that they need a dashboard, if you start putting up dashboard examples and showing off how you build them, if people like them, they're very likely to reach out, right? When you show like a data pipeline, sure, you can show some technical diagrams, but it's less real. So I think there's something really good about having a dashboarding tool under your skill set because it just is easier to show off. Cool. Now, thank you. Thank you for adding in more. Maximize data value, optimize current data pipelines, reduce cloud costs, improve data culture. Yeah, that's perfect. Let's see. Great opening salvo. Things I have thought about a lot lately, from the UK to the US. Have all my right to work, etc. sorted and started my LLC. Great. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit, I think, tomorrow about LLCs, or at least at some point. I think the big thing when it comes to like business and like, do you set up an LLC? I usually tell most people, if you don't have business, right? If you don't have any clients, it's okay to just do 1 or 2 projects that are smaller as a solo kind of business. But eventually, yeah, it makes sense to set up some sort of LLC. And then eventually from there, most people will go to like an S Corp. Let's see. More SQL, DBT, data modeling. Nice. Some Power BI. Awesome. Learn to sell. Yep. And business acumen. That's always good. Always good. DBT. Yeah. So I will say, like, even though I said, in terms of like cold DMs, I don't necessarily do it. You're still always selling, whether you're marketing, whether you're, once you get on a call with a client, you're always selling, right? You're always trying to figure out how do you encapsulate their problem and make your product as the solution or your service. What type of business need data engineering? Can you please tell the client persona. Okay, so I think what you're asking is like, what kind of problems do data engineers solve, and can we tell the client personas? I mean, the client personas range. They can be, honestly. I've worked for a lot of people. They've been like VPs of business solutions. They've been CEOs. They've been data directors. Generally, the problems that a lot of people run into are, one, I want to report on some data and I can't because all that data exists in 7 different places. And we're trying to finally get to a point where we don't have to have, John or Jane spend 12 hours a day pulling from 8 different sources to create this report, or we can't even think about that. The value I've often seen even myself add is like when I put all the data into a data warehouse, suddenly more questions open up, right? Like people are like, oh my gosh, like I have access to all this data. It's all in one place. Um, I now have more questions, right? So you're actually giving them access and accessibility to information that they never had before. So that's one way you can kind of think about it in terms of like, what do you do? It's like you give them access to information they generally can't access in one place. That's like if you're just doing the data warehouse part, but that's one simple way. There's plenty more, but that's just a good idea to think about. All right, I'm going to keep going and talking about this, but I appreciate all the questions. Please keep doing it. All right. Landing clients, because this is the big thing, right? Like if you can't land clients, regardless of if you're a consultant, if you're a product, you don't have a business, right? If you're not making money, no one's paying you. So landing clients, I put client acquisition into a few different buckets. These are just the main ones that I think of. So marketing and branding, I kind of put them together, but they're obviously slightly different. Sales, agencies and third parties. So that'd be things like Upwork, or just working through some sort of middleman, networking, and vendor partnerships. So just kind of digging into this, we'll go a little bit more, but obviously marketing and branding, I usually think about content marketing in particular because that's very easy to do in the sense that it's very easy to test ideas in this modern world. You can go on LinkedIn, try out some posts, see if people respond. If they do, you can then go and build longer form content about it. If you're very good, and we'll talk about this in the marketing and landing client section, which I will have, I think, Friday on the TFA, where we'll dive deeper into talking about this and landing clients. You actually think about the funnel. So the way I think about marketing is like, hey, what are the problems that people face at different stages as they're going through kind of their journey of like, I'm going to eventually need a consultant? What are the problems that they're going to face before they even start down that path, right? How do I get in front of these people? Whether it's on LinkedIn or written content early on, and help them figure out that I'm the right answer. And in the presentation I have on Friday, it'll have like a slide where I kind of show a few article topics and content to kind of show as like you're going through this process and be like, okay, start with like maybe just what is a specific concept like airflow, and then go and think about like the challenges you're going to face, and just keep thinking through the problems that people go through as they're picking tools, or maybe as they're trying to figure out, what the right solution is. So it's easiest to do in the sense that you just start writing content, or if you want to make your life hard, do videos. But just write content, see if people respond. If they respond, see who is responding. Is it VPs of data? Is it your possible target personas? If it's not, maybe you have to change your content. But that's what I like doing. So we'll talk more about that on Friday. But from there is sales. Again, we kind of did a little bit about doing cold DMs. That's kind of what I think of when I say sales. I mean, mostly like the skills and the approaches that salespeople use to try to get clients to talk to them. So it's a lot more of those cold outreach and things of that nature. I feel like cold outreach is really, really, really hard. If you are going to go down the route of sales, I'd say try to like get warm leads. It's more of like a combination of networking plus cold DMs. So try to not just reach out to people and bug them, but try to create value for them when you do those cold DMs, and then try to either get a warm intro to those people. That's either through, I say a good way of getting warm intros is either through a referral or someone introducing you, or number two is engage with them online. I think a lot of people don't understand that if you engage with people online, they at least feel a little more so in debt, so to speak, to you than just someone that you're just cold outreaching to, right? Don't just reach out to someone and be like, hey, I've never talked to you. I think I have a thing that will solve your problems. They have so many of those messages come in from people that have never taken the time to talk to them, to, comment on their posts, to, actually do some level of engagement. Whereas if you engage with someone for a month or something, and if they're active on something like LinkedIn or Twitter, that I think makes an easier, kind of opens up the door a little more, because they're going to feel like, oh, wow, I know this person. I'm not trying to trick people, but there is this relationship aspect to sales. So, create that relationship. All right. Next, third agencies and third parties. So this is your Upwork. This is your middleman. Someone in the middle will help you find clients. This works great in terms of you have tons of clients and they're looking for problems to be solved. Obviously, it doesn't help you, because as soon as you take away that third middleman or that third party, you're by yourself, right? You have no one to help you out. And they generally take a lot of money, right? Like I've talked to people that use Upwork, and they take a lot of your money away. Now, if you get really good, and in the TFA, there's a few people that are making, I think there's a few that have done like $500,000 plus of business from Upwork. So it's not necessarily the end of the world to use Upwork, but it definitely is harder. You tend to play more of this pricing game where you have to like price really low initially, and then eventually you can charge more money once you have high ratings. I will say, like when I use Upwork to find certain people and certain skill sets or get problem solved, I don't necessarily look for the cheapest person. In fact, I am often concerned. I want a person with really high ratings that has done a lot of work. And that way, if they charge even twice as much, it's like, well, but the work's going to get done. A lot of people, at least the people you likely want to work for, are hopefully not the people that are looking for the cheapest option. I think you always want to work for people that want the job done well versus looking for the cheapest option. And there are different types of people and different types of essentially targets that you're shooting for there. It's kind of like, are you shooting to be a Walmart, or are you shooting to be like a Costco or a Target, or think about what your brand is. And if you want to be the cheapest, that's fine, but that's generally not my goal. So yeah, third parties, agencies, they work. It's a good way to get started. I don't think it's a good long-term strategy. There are some people that disagree, even in my community. I've had some people who disagree with that, which is fine. I think it's better to have either a network or some content that you've developed over time that continues to land clients. All right, networking. So this is actually one that when I talked to consultants last year, and people who have been doing it for over 3 to 5, 10 years of consulting, this was likely the most common way. I should have tracked it, but this was likely the most common way that people responded to how they land clients, right? Networking and referrals. The way this one starts, right, is like you think about everyone that you know, not just, I think some people are limited to thinking like, who are the people that I worked with in the past, right? This can be people from, if you're church, if you go to church, they can be from your softball league, they can be from anywhere, right? Don't be annoying again, but do think about your network and just let them know, right? Like step one, when you are about to start consulting, is just let everyone know, like, hey, I'm going to start consulting as whatever it might be, back end, CI/CD, etc. I'm looking to solve these problems. If you know anyone, could you let me know? And then start growing your network, right? Again, that can be on LinkedIn. One way I think one reason I like content is it kind of does both. It helps grow your network while also putting out content, because people will reach out to you. But, post on LinkedIn, reach out to people on LinkedIn, ask for intros to people that, you can get some warm intro to. Again, don't reach out to people that you don't know. Most people will ignore you because they feel like you're just looking for something from them and you're not offering anything in return. So yeah, networking is a great way. I have a template somewhere. I think it's in the TFA as well. That just is like, hey, when you start consulting, just send this email to people that you know. It just basically says, hey, I'm whoever. I'm going to start consulting. Here's the things I'm looking for. If you know anyone, that's great. Now that's at the beginning. Networking doesn't stop at just like, hey, here's one message. Again, similar to sales, similar to marketing, there has to be these multiple touches where you keep getting on top of whoever your target persona or individual's mind is, right? You don't just want to be like, hey, I reached out to this one person last year, right? You need to continually reach out to them and be like, hey, how is it going? How's, if they have a kid or if they have something of that nature, you reach out, you talk to them. Again, you have a relationship, you actually care. You shouldn't think about it as a networking activity. I think you should really think about it as, I care about this person as an individual. And as you do that, as you reach out to them, that keeps them, that keeps you on top of mind. And that's really the goal, is to be like, how do I stay on top of mind for this possible client? But again, we could go into a whole talk about networking in itself, and I have in the past. And vendor partnerships. Again, these are just some of the key ways, I think, but vendor partnerships is another one. Whenever you see a consulting business explode, you're like, how did that person go from like one client to now they're doing like 100 and they're like 30 employees and things of that nature? The two ways I usually see this happen is either vendor partnerships or some sort of government like stimulus, so to speak, where it's like, oh, suddenly they put, $1 billion focusing on this one problem. And if you happen to be consulting that problem, you're lucky, right? Like, because you're solving this problem, and if you're really good, you're making sure to reach out to people and land those deals. But vendor partnerships can be a great way to land clients. You essentially help them find possible customers, and then in return, they often send you clients and back and forth. And so it's like this, hey, we'll send you work, you send us work. And so you do need to often find a vendor that is at your level, right? If you have no clients and you find a vendor that has no clients, but you think will do well in the future, that can work really well. It's a little harder when you think about like Snowflake, because you can imagine Snowflake is probably mostly working with people who are sending them millions of dollars a year in business. And so you've got to be able to kind of match that, right? Or you have to be really well connected with the account executive team at that company and make sure that you actually have a relationship with basically the sales team. That's another aspect of this, is generally most of these companies have some sort of partnership company or some partnership programs. You should become part of those partnership programs, but that's not generally how you will land clients, right? Like, not just, you're a partner, they're going to send you work. Generally, that's not how it works. What I've found is that if you send an account executive some work, right? If you work with one of them and you keep that network going, then eventually that account executive will send you work. It's not necessarily through a direct partnership. It's just like that account executive, that salesperson, is motivated, is incentivized to work with you if you've already sent them work in the past, because you've helped them close a deal. So they want you to send them future work. And so if they send you work, they will likely be like, hey, if I send them work, they'll likely send me work more, or they'll send me more deals in the future. And so it is kind of this roundabout, like, hey, you help me, I help you kind of situation. Feel free to ask any questions on how to land clients. Again, I'm going to go deeper in a future date on Friday, talking about this. I'm really trying to get people started. So let me see some of these questions. All right. What is your recommendation for someone really technical but lacking sales and closing deals? So the obvious thing there is you need to find, if you aren't going to pick up those skills, if you plan to pick up those skills, do that. If you're not, you need a salesperson, right? You need to find a partner who's good at sales and marketing and can do that, right? Right. It's the whole Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs kind of combination, right? Someone needs to be able to market and sell. Someone needs to be able to build the thing, right? So either you got to pick it up, or you have to find someone else to do it. Or some people like going through a third party that does it. But someone has to solve that problem, right? And that's where it kind of ends. Hi, I have geo-decision trees about choosing places and clients for every type of business in New York. How to sell? I'm not sure. So I understand kind of what you're saying. Do you have a certain type of client that you're trying to solve or trying to sell to? Yeah, I don't know if maybe you could rephrase this question for me. Not sure if mentioned before, but how to make the first step, land first client, choose product, pricing, etc. Sure. So I kind of lightly talked about figuring out what you offer. And that's kind of where I'd start. So let's talk about where do you start. I'll go a little bit back into that. The way I like to think about it is you have certain skills. Um, I'd recommend you, one, kind of list out what skills you offer. Two, go talk to people who likely are, you know, facing problems that you think you could solve, and go try to get some time with them, not to sell to them, but just to understand what is their day to day like, right? Where could they use data, or where could they use an improved CI/CD, workflow? Understand what their kind of day to day looks like. List out what you hear in terms of problems and if there are themes, and then start seeing where that crosses over, right? Pricing, I think, comes later. You asked pricing. I think pricing comes later. Generally, the simple rule is, just 2 to 3x your current hourly rate. But in terms of pricing, we'll eventually talk about pricing a little more in depth on Monday. So to go beyond just doing hourly rates. But I really think you should focus on, figuring out what services you offer, like what do you do really well, and what problems do your clients have? And then focusing on trying to land clients in that space, right? Being like, okay, where are these people? Where do they exist? Who are they? And how do I land them? From there, right, like landing your first client, there's no magic there, right? You just have to get in front of them. And that's kind of what we just talked about here, right? Marketing, sales, networking. I think a lot of people I've talked to, networking is the way that they've landed their first client. It's probably like 80% of people have done it through their network. So they've reached out to people that they know and landed clients. So hopefully that helps, but let me know. What do you think about a newbie DE career transitioner getting into consulting as a first gig in the industry, especially if they're partnering with a data career veteran? I mean, I think that can work, right? I think, then you're probably more on the contracting side. You're not solving problems that are like consulting per se. You're solving like contracting issues, which is fine. The first project I did, actually, that's exactly how I did my first project. Was I worked with someone that was more experienced in the space, and I was really just helping them migrate access to SQL Server. So it works great. You just are more of a contracting or subcontracting kind of individual versus like a full-blown consultant, which is fine. All right, where are we? All right. So yeah, here's some methods to land clients in terms of a survey that was done a little bit ago from someone's site. I just thought it was interesting because I think the main ways I see here kind of line up to what I've seen in terms of like what lands me clients. Social media and content marketing, I think, kind of go together personally, because it's like, okay, what do you mean social media versus content marketing? Unless you just mean blogs here, but you're likely sharing your blogs on social media. So personally, I think these two are together. But yeah, it really comes down to a lot of like your network, professional referrals, and word of mouth. And I think a lot of content marketing. It's not to say that your sales and cold outreach don't work. But I really think at the end of the day, a lot of people are landing clients either through their network, through content. I think vendor partnerships is the other big one that I see, but we can kind of keep going from here. So yeah, the three main ways I've seen consultants land clients, just to kind of cover it here again, is really marketing, networking, and referrals. It's not to say that the other ways don't work. It's just the ways I've seen it, and talk to people, right? Like I've talked to, at this point, it feels like dozens of people last year talking about consultants. And I think that these make sense because they solve two problems really well. They solve the problem of getting in front of people, right? Social media, great way to get in front of people these days. And two, they build trust. Marketing kind of shows, especially with content, that you know a skill well, that you're willing to talk about it. Networking and referrals build a relationship, and that relationship is trust. So they solve those things really, really well. And really, the way I view it is, for marketing, you create content that answers problems, right? You think about the problems that your target persona has, you create content around it. Like the one that I did a lot and did really well, I was like, and this is when it finally clicked for me that this actually worked, was I did some content about airflow and some of the challenges you'll face. And I think a few of those videos, like one of those videos, landed me like over $200,000 to $300,000 of business. And I didn't do it, I think, even in thinking that like this is what it's going to solve. But putting out that content just made like it somewhere if you think about the marketing funnel, kind of hits somewhere in that middle where it's like people are going to eventually start looking for the reasons why not to pick a solution. And so when I wrote this content about here are the challenges you're going to face about Airflow, it just really clicked with a lot of people who are struggling with Airflow. They're like, oh man, we picked Airflow. We didn't know we were going to have all these problems. Who knows who understands Airflow and all the problems we're going to run into? And so I think that really helped. And then finally, or on the other side, is like make the content, then distribute it. That's the two pieces. And you're going to spend more time distributing content than you will making content in some ways. Or at least you're going to make a lot of content and spend a lot of time up front to make it, and then you're going to spend a lot of time distributing it. So again, LinkedIn, Twitter, sometimes Reddit. Reddit is definitely hard. People definitely will get upset if you're too spammy. So be careful with Reddit. But there's plenty of places you can share. Networking, again, don't limit yourself to your coworkers or ex-coworkers. You have so many places you can reach out to people, whether it's social media, whether it's the real life organizations you're part of. Networking is everywhere. Again, don't be annoying. I think that's always a key thing. Don't be annoying. Was that DBA or something? You don't have to be obnoxious, but like let people know. Just let people understand what your value is and what you're trying to solve. People like helping. And then referrals, which just come from vendors, past clients in your network. So those are the three ways I see people doing it. Again, cold outreach. It's not that it doesn't work. Some people are really good at it, but if you're not, it's a very disheartening way to go. It just is. Let me see if I can find LinkedIn. I do have at least one on the TFA. Let me see. Where's the LinkedIn post? Here. This one's just how to use Sales Navigator. So if anyone is curious about things like LinkedIn, cold DMs, here's a chat I had with someone who does sales. And specifically, they sell around consulting services. So they're actually trying to sell consulting services. You can kind of learn from her and her experience. All right, question. How to effectively sell within a landing page funnel stage. How to show my value proposition effectively. I think there's a lot of tips or a lot of tricks you can probably try to use to land clients. I think at the end of the day, if you're putting out good content, people are going to want to reach out to you, whether you've got an amazing landing page or not, right? I think landing pages, like, make a decent one, make it clear what you solve, and tell people like, hey, reference the tools and technologies that you use, and then say, maybe you can highlight some of the big wins you've had with white papers, like I've helped sell or helped reduce churn by 50%, through some sort of dashboard or something, or some sort of model that you've built. I think at the end of the day, if you're putting out good content, regardless if your landing page is good or not, people are going to want to work with you. I don't think my landing page is great, but people still reach out to me. So I think the focus is, put out things that people want to work with, or put out content people want to work with, and then you don't have to trick them. I often feel like landing pages can kind of feel like you're trying to trick someone into working with you. But yeah, show off your skills and some of the work that you've done in the past, via like a white paper. And then I think people will want to work with you. So yeah. But yeah, I don't need to look for high pressure sales techniques, or how do I trick people into connecting with me. If you're good, people will want to connect with you, even if your landing page isn't perfect. All right, so just to go through a few examples of some content marketing examples. Here's a list in terms of you can do blogs, you can do things on LinkedIn, you can post infographics, right? Here's Byte Go's infographic, right? In terms of what is SQL. A lot of these have been made, but you can always make yours different, unique, kind of have a specific brand and look to it. Templates always work well. So if you have a project management template or something of that nature, that tends to do well. How-to guides, memes. I mean, memes are also arguably a form of marketing. Sometimes you can get stuck in this, so don't focus too heavily on memes. I think sometimes I like memes, but I think sometimes that can hinder just as much as help. But they're good as well. Tools and courses, right? You can put out some basic tool to help people figure out how to reduce their cost on Snowflake, right? Like, hey, we have a tool. Before you even hire us, just use this tool, and it'll save you maybe 10%, and we can help you save the next 90% or something. Courses, you can just use some very basic courses that help land clients. Maybe like, hey, before hiring us, why don't you go through this really basic course on how to be better or how to be more data driven in your company or something. So there's tons of ways you can actually create content. And I just wanted to pick one way or one path that I showed here. Again, on Tuesday, or not Tuesday, sorry. Again, on Friday, I'll be doing a longer talk on the TFA on landing clients, because that is something that you could just dive into. Basically, a 2-hour long session for almost every one of the ones here in the past. You could probably go into talk about each of these for a decent amount of time. At least marketing and sales, probably, and networking. So yeah, just to give you some ideas in terms of like how to land clients. All right, so thinking about marketing campaigns, as you're kind of going through and trying to build content, I think it makes sense to try to think through and find problems, right? Earlier on, we talked about talking to people. Go talk to your clients, go talk to possible eventual clients that you want to sell to, and understand the problems that they're facing, right? Try to encapsulate that idea. Like, okay, what is it that they're facing, right? Pick 2 or 3 problems that they're facing and try selling into those. For example, when I left Facebook, this is kind of one example. When I left Facebook, I realized that there was like tons of tools, that existed in terms of like which tools do we pick. And also I realized that like a lot of people struggled with Airflow. Eventually, again, that took some time to realize that these were problems. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, let me go talk to some people. So I talked to a bunch of data leaders, kind of try to understand like, hey, what are the problems you face? What are you dealing with on the day-to-day? And one of the problems people were facing is just like, I don't even know what each of these tools do. I don't really know where to start. I know I need a data warehouse, but I don't really know where to go. And then from there, I kind of realized I could put together just an accelerator package. So kind of here in this develop service, right? I was like, oh, I could probably just develop a service, because I'm seeing all these companies struggling to set up their data infrastructure. They're spending 6, 12, 18 months to set up a data stack that really should just take 3 to 6 months to set up and just get things going. And I could sell into that and basically offer an accelerator. Is the way I kind of labeled it. It was like this data stack accelerator. And I can just charge, 90 to 120K to do it for 3 to 4 months. And that's a good deal for me, right? Like, I'm making a decent amount of money. I set up their data infrastructure. And, from my perspective, if I do a few of those a year, I'm doing really well. And obviously for me, I had some overlap between these projects. I would do like maybe 2 projects-ish at a time if I had them. And so it was really good on my side. So you develop some sort of thing that you can actually sell. You understand the problem. You kind of make sure you confirm it, do some interview research, post on LinkedIn, see if people respond and if they are connecting with the content. Develop kind of a package around that or a service. You can give it a name. I think this is something that Alex Hormezi talks about. Give it a name, something to encapsulate the idea. Again, keep testing out the idea, and then eventually I'd like post longer form videos and content, and I'd start landing clients. Does it take time? Yes, it does. But eventually you start finding that, hey, if you go through more of an actual process and you're not just like trying to throw out darts and hope that your marketing or your content will work, you'll actually start hitting problems, right? So actually think through what problems people are facing, talk to people about that, develop some sort of service around it and try selling it. By generally, again, I create kind of a funnel where it's like, okay, we'll start from the top of when you're just about to get aware of a problem to when you want to actually convert. So sell into that, test out those ideas, and then eventually you're hopefully landing clients. And if you're not, within to like a 6-month window, it might be time to try a different approach, and that's also okay. All right. Where you'll all start. So again, this was kind of meant to be an intro. We're about an hour in, and that's kind of where I thought we'd be. Feel free to ask some questions because I'm about to wrap up. So where everyone kind of starts, I have a 30-day kind of just checklist. Actually, I should probably find that now that I think about it. let me pick that up really fast. I have a 30-day checklist just to get people started. It's uh, not super fancy, but it's just meant to kind of give you some step by step. So I'm going to put it here. Most people, you'll likely start with first just your business stuff. So, figure out what type of business you want it to be. Do you have enough business where you think it makes sense to set up an LLC? What problems are you actually going to solve? Really write that down. Take some time in the first week to really answer your why. Like, why do you want to do this? Then week 2, spend some time creating a website and putting together your socials, just so you can start preparing to sell. I think it's great to have some places to sell and share content. Week 3, I recommend you just start letting people know. It doesn't have to be this perfect. It's just I broke it down this way because I think it helps people get going. So as you're preparing for January, if you're new, that's great. You can kind of follow this approach. So yeah, let people know, let your network know. And then week 4, you're hopefully creating content and reaching out to people. If you're more experienced, again, we're going to keep doing and talking about consulting over the next few days. I'm doing kind of a 3-day accelerator. You can join the TFA and be part of it. That's where it will be. We're going to cover, again, kind of some of the realities of consulting. So tomorrow will be more of an intro still. And then Friday and Monday, we're going to do landing clients. And then also on Monday, we're going to talk about pricing. Because that's a lot of people do care about pricing, and I get that. I think that's important. So you're not going to want to miss that. Let me just share my screen here. Here, I'll go here. So share this tab instead. So you can kind of join the TFA. It really is just meant to be kind of a social place for consultants. We're getting close to, I think, 1,500 members. I just did a post here kind of highlighting some of the stuff that I posted from last year. I already have a ton of videos and content that might answer some of the problems you already have. So everything from pricing and understanding your value, how to land clients. I've got a lot about that. Project examples. So maybe some of the ideas of what you could be delivering for value. And some lessons from other consultants. So some chats I've had with other consultants. All of this stuff is free here. I do have like a paid section below, but honestly, there's a ton of free stuff. So if you're just getting started, or if you're struggling with some other problems and you've been doing it for a few years, you'll probably find something here that would be helpful. So that's just meant to be the eventual place where I'm really trying to get everyone to go, because I think part of the challenges with consulting is it's very lonely. We're all by ourselves. And so this was meant to be a place that people could come to and like ask questions about problems that they're facing, whether it's how to land clients, or we've had as specific as like, hey, I have this project that's coming up. Should I charge, X amount or this amount? Should I use a retainer? Should I charge, per month? What should I how should I charge? And so people are really asking a lot of these questions that I think people struggle with on a daily basis. So if you'd like to join, I think you should. Let's see this. Is this live stream going to be available as a video after this? Want to send this to my consulting partner. He couldn't be here. Yeah, nope, this will be here. Again, the ones that I'm going to be doing on the Consulting Accelerator will be on the community, but this one I'll leave here for everyone to view in the future. Amazing. Followed this approach 1 year now, and it's been good. Thanks for sharing content. Awesome. I'm glad. Let me know if you ever want to talk or want to share or comment about how it's been good. I really love the TFA section with job consultancy projects. I don't know if that means like the section that says I need a consultant, because there's one section here that's like, if you need a consultant. Some people kind of post about I need help from something, right? Like, oh, this person needs an Azure network engineer or expanding the team here. So they were looking for someone with Python and DBT. So there is some people that do that. It's not, I don't want this group to be about, finding projects. But I do understand that sometimes that's a need. I really want this to be about teaching people to fish, right? Like, hey, let's get the skills, right? Like, let's learn how to market. Let's learn how to sell. Let's learn how to do all of this again. Let's see. So yeah, do you have any plans on creating a networking event for data consultants? Yes, I would like to do that. I would like to do some sort of like in-person events. We do some Ask Me Anythings on the TFA, where honestly, I let anyone kind of answer as long as they are answering well. I'll be there, but I'll also help facilitate, because there's a lot of consultants in there. Some have like years more experience than me, and it's great to get them in and get them involved in answering questions. I love when some people answer. I think that a lot of us struggle from not having active network or data professionals. Yep, and that's what this TFA is for, hopefully. Um, or unless you mean more from like the networking side of like, how do we get more? Like, how do we network with people that could be our possible clients? Very big fan of your content. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you. Yes, that one. Okay, yeah. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, Pedro. I have had clients asking for very specific technology experts, and I'm not able to recommend them someone who is an expert. Oh, okay. Yeah, so that is going back to the point from earlier. That's one of the reasons I did put together this one space, and this is again free for you to post in. Is this whole space is meant to be like, hey, do you have a technology or something? Like I think again, Jeff here was like, hey, we need an Azure network engineer. And that's why I really want this group to grow, because the more like the bigger we get and the more diverse it gets, when we have these problems where it's like, hey, someone needs help with this technology that no one's ever used except for 2 people, you could go here and find someone that hopefully uses that technology. So that's my vision, or part of the vision of the future. Share the link to the community. Yes, I've shared it a few times, but let me just share it again. You can join right here. I'm going to do this one, the consulting resources. You can join right here. Let's see. The issue with in-person events is that the only people who live in certain area, are able to participate. Yes, that's why I do some virtual ones as well. But yes, obviously, it's kind of a hodgepodge. I do want to somehow figure out if there's a way, and I keep forgetting I want to do this. I want to like figure out where everyone lives in the TFA, because then we could maybe figure out if we could almost have like chapters where maybe someone leads the live events in different places. So yeah. Any suggestions on what to learn next, or how to invest time in learning? Some kind of cost benefit analysis for some tech and tools. I don't know, like if you're talking more about like the like business side, like how to market and how to sell, or if you mean like technology in general, like what tech should you learn more in the future? Because in general, right, like I'd tell you, pick, something either marketing or tech. What tech do you want to learn? I mean, I don't know everything that you know in terms of technology. I think like the way I approach most of my problems is like I'll pick like 1 or 2 new technologies a year to kind of spend some time with. Maybe 1 more, maybe it's 3, but some level. And then the rest will just be things that I'm learning on the job, right? Like I already have a solid base of most of the technologies, whether it's cloud, SQL. I mean, you want to know the basics, obviously, SQL, Python, cloud, a cloud data warehouse or 2. And then from there, it's like, if you're interested in technology, learn it. And then the rest will be learned on the job, because you don't know what technologies are going to be useful until you start getting picked up for projects. And then you just learn to learn really fast and try to figure out where you can get screwed over on a new technology. Cool. Well, I don't know if anyone has any more questions. Again, I'm going to be doing this for another few days. Actually, it's right here. I can go to the events. So tomorrow, I've got day 1, which is the good, the bad, the ugly, talking about consulting. From there, I'm talking about how to attract clients on January 3rd. And then on Monday, we're talking about pricing with confidence. So that's kind of the plan for the next few days in terms of what I'm going to be covering. Feel free to sign up. Again, it's all free. It should be. Let me know if it's not, but it should be. The only stuff that's not free is anything below here. So event should be free. It's even telling me starts in 24 hours or 23 hours. And we already have 250 people signed up, so feel free to join in. I'm actually curious, how does that translate? Yeah, that sounds about right. Everyone always signs up for day 1, and then hopefully we'll see what happens day 2. But that's on me. How can we connect with you? I mean, it depends on what you're looking for, right? You can, it depends. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd want to know why. There's certain things I don't do. For example, I don't necessarily mentor. I do content for mentoring, essentially, to scale it out. saying too much. But let me know. Cool. Well, I don't think there's anything left to talk about. So if you have any other questions, feel free to post questions on the TFA. That's part of the reason it's there. So if you have other questions that weren't answered today, post them there. People will all benefit from that. And that's kind of part of the goal, is that, if you've got a question in the future, it can be answered. With that, I hope everyone has a happy new year. Hopefully everything's going well. And I will see you tomorrow if you join us for the Consulting Accelerator. Thanks all. Goodbye.